The small spacecraft shook violently as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Ambassador Seraphine of the Aelani people gripped her seat with six-fingered hands. Her blue skin had paled from exhaustion and fear. For 30 days, she had traveled across the stars, fleeing the destruction of her people's outer colonies. "Stabilizing now, Ambassador," said the ship's computer. "Earth's defense systems have accepted our diplomatic codes." Seraphine closed her large, silver eyes. The Aelani were known across the galaxy as peaceful empaths, beings who could sense emotions and heal with touch. Their advanced biotechnology had created wonders, but they had never built weapons. Why would they? Before the Crador came, the galaxy had been at peace for centuries. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," the computer announced. A stern human face appeared on the screen. A woman with dark hair pulled back tightly, wearing a uniform decorated with medals and insignia. "Aelani vessel, this is Admiral Chen, Earth Defense Force. State your purpose." Seraphine leaned forward. "Admiral, I am Ambassador Seraphine of the Aelani High Council. I come bearing an urgent message from our dying leader. We need to speak immediately." The Admiral's expression remained unchanged. "Land at the following coordinates. An escort will meet you." 3 hours later, Seraphine stood before the United Earth Council. 50 human representatives from all corners of their world watched her with curious eyes. Humans were still relatively new to galactic politics, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years ago. Since then, they had established colonies on a dozen worlds but largely kept to themselves. The stories about humans were troubling. They had nearly destroyed themselves 3 times in their history. The Third World War had reduced their population by billions before they finally united under one government. Their military capabilities were rumored to be extensive, though rarely displayed. "Ambassador," said the council president, an older man with skin the color of rich soil, "you may present your message." Seraphine placed a crystal orb on the table before her. It glowed softly, then projected the image of High Elder Thalen, his once vibrant blue skin now ashen gray, his body marked with burns. "People of Earth," Thalen's voice was weak. "I record this as the last surviving leader of the Aelani Central Worlds. 3 months ago, the Crater Imperium began attacking our outer colonies without warning or provocation. They have destroyed 12 worlds already, killing billions." Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Seraphine noticed several humans, clenching their fists. The recording continued. "We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons to fight back. The Galactic Council has offered diplomatic condemnation, but no military aid." Thalen coughed, blood staining his ceremonial robes. "We have heard stories about Earth, about your capacity for warfare. We would never ask another species to fight for us, but we have no choice. The Crador will not stop with us. They—" An explosion rocked the recording. Voices screamed in the background. "They're here," Thalen whispered. "Please, help us. The coordinates of our remaining worlds are embedded in this message. If there is mercy in your hearts, if there is strength in your hands—" The recording cut off as something crashed through the ceiling above the Elder. Silence filled the Earth Council chamber. Seraphine looked at the humans, unsure what to expect. Their faces had grown still, their eyes hard. "The recording was made 15 days ago," Seraphine said quietly. "I escaped as the Crador attacked our capital world. 3 billion of my people lived there." Her voice broke. "I don't know how many survived." The council president stood. "Ambassador, the council will need to discuss—" "No." The voice came from the back of the room. A tall human woman in a military uniform stepped forward. "General Vasquez," the president acknowledged with surprise. "There's nothing to discuss," General Helena Vasquez said. Her eyes burned with an intensity that made even Seraphine step back. "We've seen this before, on Earth. The strong preying on those who cannot defend themselves." She walked to Seraphine, looking directly into her silver eyes. "My grandmother was a child when warlords destroyed her village in the resource wars. She told me how they killed everyone who resisted and enslaved the rest. No one came to help." The general turned to address the council. "We swore never again on our own world. Are we to ignore the same happening among the stars? An older councilman spoke up. General, this could mean war with a species we know nothing about. We have our own colonies to protect. Yes, Vasquez replied. It means war, not a limited engagement, not a peacekeeping mission. If we do this, we bring what humanity has perfected over thousands of years of our bloody history. We bring total war. The room fell silent again. Seraphine felt a chill as she sensed the emotions in the room shifting. Where there had been shock and pity, now she felt something else, something her empathic abilities had never encountered before. A cold, focused rage, determination like steel. The council president looked at each representative in turn. One by one they nodded. He turned to Seraphine. Ambassador, please transmit the coordinates of all remaining Elani worlds to our military command. Then send this message to your people. We will come. Within hours, alerts sounded across Earth, and all human colonies. Warships long kept in reserve were activated. Military units began boarding transport vessels. Factories switched production lines to create weapons and supplies. From her temporary quarters, Seraphine watched in awe as the night side of Earth lit up with the launches of hundreds of ships. She had come expecting sympathy, perhaps token, assistance. Instead, she witnessed an entire civilization mobilizing for war with a speed and efficiency that defied comprehension. An aide brought her a communication device. General Vasquez wishes to speak with you, Ambassador. Ambassador. The general's voice was calm now, focused. I'll be commanding the first battle group to reach your people. I need everything you know about the Crador, their tactics, their weaknesses. General, Seraphine hesitated. The Elani are grateful, but we've never seen anything like this. Your people barely discussed the decision. You're risking everything for a species you barely know. Vasquez was silent for a moment. Ambassador, humanity spent millennia fighting itself. We nearly wiped ourselves out 3 times. We learned the hard way that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing, she continued, her voice gaining strength. The Crador chose to attack a peaceful species that couldn't fight back. Now they're going to learn what happens when they face an enemy that can. As the first wave of Earth ships entered faster than light, news spread across the galaxy. Humanity had entered the war. Most species didn't understand what this meant. The Crador dismissed it as irrelevant, just another weak civilization making empty gestures. They would learn. They would all learn what it meant when humanity brought total war to the stars. Supreme Commander Vrax of the Crador Imperium stood before the tactical display, his scaled skin glinting under the harsh lights of the command center. Around him, lesser officers worked at their stations, occasionally casting nervous glances his way. The Crador conquest of the Elani worlds had proceeded exactly as planned, until now. Explain again, Vrax demanded, his 4 yellow eyes fixed on the intelligence officer trembling before him. Supreme Commander, 3 days ago, the remaining Elani leadership sent a message to Earth. Yesterday, our deep space monitors detected over 200 warships leaving the human system. Vrax made a dismissive gesture with one clawed hand. Humans. They've barely left their home system. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. An older officer stepped forward. Supreme Commander, if I may, our intelligence on humans suggests caution. They have fought 3 planetary wars among themselves. Their military capabilities may be greater than we assume. Vrax turned slowly. Are you suggesting the mighty Crador Imperium should fear a species that hasn't fought a real war in space? A species that has hidden behind its borders while we conquered 12 Elani worlds? No, Supreme Commander, but enough. Continue the attack on the Elani homeworld. If these humans interfere, crush them. Show them the price of challenging the Imperium. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the EDF Indomitable, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Through the viewscreen, she could see the gathered fleet, over 200 ships, of various sizes, all armed with Earth's most advanced weapons. Admiral, her communications officer called. The stealth squadrons report ready. All ships are in position. Vasquez nodded. The Ilani ambassador had provided the locations of the crater fleet surrounding the Ilani homeworld. Thanks to Earth's advanced stealth technology, developed during centuries of humans hiding weapons from other humans, they had positioned 3 squadrons of attack ships within striking distance without being detected. "Send the message to all ships," Vasquez ordered. "Operation Thunderbolt begins in 5 minutes." She turned to Seraphine, who stood quietly at the back of the bridge. The Ilani ambassador had insisted on accompanying the first wave of human forces. "Ambassador, you should know that what you're about to witness may be disturbing. My people have a long history of warfare. What we've planned isn't simply an attack. It's designed to create shock, confusion, and fear." Seraphine's silver eyes widened. "You plan to kill them?" "No," Vasquez replied, her voice steady. "We plan to defeat them. There's a difference. We'll give them one chance to retreat." Exactly 5 minutes later, 30 human stealth ships simultaneously deactivated their cloaking devices, appearing without warning inside the crater defensive perimeter around the Ilani homeworld. Before the crater could respond, the human ships launched hundreds of small, fast-moving projectiles toward the enemy vessels. On the bridge of the crater command ship, alarms blared. "Supreme Commander, enemy vessels have appeared inside our formation," a panicked officer shouted. Vrax roared in anger. "Impossible! No ship can penetrate our sensor net." "They're launching weapons, but they're not energy weapons or missiles. They're small objects. Thousands of them." The small objects were WASP drones, weapons of assessed selective precision, a human innovation. Each drone was the size of a human fist, controlled by advanced AI and programmed to target specific systems: weapons, engines, communications, but not life support. Within minutes, crater ships across the formation began losing power. Weapon systems went offline. Communication between vessels cut out. The carefully organized crater fleet fell into chaos. "All stealth squadrons report success, Admiral," the tactical officer announced. 83% of crater vessels have been neutralized without destruction." Vasquez nodded. "Open a channel to the crater command ship." On the main screen, the scaled face of Commander Vrax appeared, his yellow eyes burning with rage. "I am Admiral Helena Vasquez of Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been disabled. Your weapons and engines are offline. We could destroy you, but we're giving you one chance. Withdraw from all Ilani worlds immediately." Vrax snarled. "You dare? The crater Imperium does not surrender. We have 1,000 more ships. We will hunt down your pathetic planet and—" Vasquez cut the transmission. He made his choice. She turned to her weapons officer. "Target the command ship's propulsion and weapons only. Fire when ready." A series of precise energy beams struck the crater command vessel, surgically removing its ability to fight or flee. Around it, the human stealth ships began similar operations on the rest of the fleet. Seraphine watched in amazement. "You're not destroying them?" "Not if we don't have to," Vasquez replied. "Dead enemies tell no stories. We want survivors to spread the word about what happened here." 3 days later, on the captured crater outpost orbiting the third Ilani moon, Dr. Marcus Chen examined the disassembled crater weapons spread across his laboratory table. "Fascinating," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "Their targeting systems use quantum entanglement principles, but the implementation is inefficient." Around him, a team of Earth's best scientists worked on different pieces of crater technology. In just 72 hours, they had reverse-engineered the basic principles behind most of the alien weapons and defenses. Dr. Chen, a young researcher, called out, "I think I've figured out how to bypass their shield harmonics." Chen smiled. Humanity had always excelled at understanding and adapting enemy technology. It was a skill born from thousands of years of fighting each other, the constant race to overcome the opponent's latest advantage. A communication screen lit up, showing Admiral Vasquez. "Doctor, what's your progress?" "Better than expected, Admiral. We'll have countermeasures against their main weapon systems within 48 hours. Their technology is advanced, but their design philosophy lacks creativity." Vasquez nodded. "Good. We've received reports that the Krator are mobilizing their main fleet. They're bringing in their best ships and commanders. They're taking us seriously now, Chen observed. Yes, and they're also deploying something new. Intelligence suggests they're preparing biological weapons for use against remaining Alani population centers. Chen's expression hardened. Biological? Weapons against civilians? Yes, I'm authorizing implementation of the doctrine of necessity effective immediately. The scientist fell silent. The doctrine of necessity was one of Earth's most classified military protocols, authorizing the use of experimental weapons and enhanced soldiers, technologies considered too extreme for conventional warfare. I understand. Admiral, I'll inform the augmentation teams to prepare. After the transmission ended, Chen looked at his team. New priority, everyone. The Krator have just changed the rules of engagement. Across the galaxy, news of the human intervention spread rapidly. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from 30 species debated the development. The humans defeated an entire Krator battle group without destroying a single ship, said the Tellurian representative in awe. But the Krator will not take this humiliation lightly, countered another. They will retaliate with their full might. The eldest member of the council, a Vordic sage who had lived for 3 centuries, spoke last. What troubles me is not what the humans did, but how easily they did it. We have all heard the saying about humanity. Peaceful until threatened. I fear the galaxy is about to discover what happens when humans feel not only threatened, but righteous. As if to punctuate his words, reports arrived of another human victory at a different Alani colony. This time, the Krator ships had been completely destroyed. The war was escalating and humanity was just getting started. The atmosphere in Earth's high command bunker was tense. Admiral Vasquez stood before the United Earth Council, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from her last battle. The large screen behind her showed images that made even the most hardened council members look away. Alani refugees suffering from the effects of Krator biological weapons. 3 days ago, Vasquez reported, her voice steady but filled with controlled anger. The Krator deployed bioweapons against refugee camps on Alani's second moon. The death toll stands at 43,000 civilians. The council president leaned forward. And our response? I've initiated the doctrine of necessity, as authorized. The first enhanced combat teams have already been deployed. We're also preparing restricted weapons platforms for use against Krator military targets. A council member spoke up. Admiral, the doctrine has never been implemented in actual warfare. Are we certain this is necessary? Vasquez pointed to the screen. The Krator believed they could break our resolve by targeting civilians. They assumed we would retreat from this conflict rather than escalate. Her eyes hardened. They were wrong. Lieutenant, Darius Chen checked his neural interface one last time as the drop pod hurtled toward the Krator command center. Around him, 15 soldiers from Alpha Squad did the same. They were the first deployment of Earth's enhanced soldiers under the doctrine of necessity, elite fighters augmented with experimental technology. 30 seconds to insertion, the pod's AI announced. Chen looked at his team. Their combat suits were barely distinguishable from their skin, a fusion of advanced materials and biotech that increased strength, speed, and reaction time. Neural implants connected them directly to their weapons and to each other, allowing them to communicate without speaking and share sensory input instantaneously. Remember, Chen said, our objective is the command center. We extract their battle plans and destroy their communication hub. This isn't about killing, it's about crippling their ability to coordinate attacks against civilian targets. The pod crashed through the outer defenses of the Krator base, its stealth systems keeping it invisible until the last moment. When it hit the ground, the sides blew outward, and Alpha Squad moved with inhuman speed. The first Krator guards barely had time to raise their weapons before Chen's team was upon them. The enhanced soldiers moved like blurs, disarming and incapacitating the guards with precision. Their neural implants gave them perfect awareness of each other's positions, allowing them to function as a single organism rather than individual fighters. Within minutes, they reached the central command chamber. Chen plugged a small device into the Krator computer system, downloading their battle plans and fleet deployments. "Lieutenant," one of his soldiers called, "you need to see this." On a large tactical display, Chen saw the Krator's next targets, 6 more Alani refugee centers. The attack was scheduled to begin in less than 12 hours. "Download complete," Chen announced. "Plant the disruptors and let's move." His team placed small devices throughout the command center. These weren't bombs, they were something far more sophisticated. When activated, they would scramble all electronic communications and corrupted data storage, rendering the base effectively blind and mute. As Alpha Squad retreated, Krator reinforcements finally responded. A heavy weapons team caught them in a narrow corridor, opening fire with plasma cannons. Chen felt his combat suit harden instantly in response to the attack. The suit's reactive systems absorbed and redistributed the energy, protecting him from what should have been a fatal hit. He dove forward, moving faster than any unaugmented human could, and disabled the weapon with a precise strike. "Exit route compromised," his neural link informed him. "Calculating alternatives." Without hesitation, Chen led his team through a series of maintenance tunnels. Their enhanced senses allowed them to navigate in near-total darkness, avoiding patrols and security systems. 23 minutes after insertion, Alpha Squad reached their extraction point without losing a single soldier. The Krator command center behind them went dark as the disruptors activated, cutting off all communications. As their extraction vessel accelerated away, Chen received a message from Admiral Vasquez. "Mission successful. The information you recovered has been transmitted to all fleet commanders. We're moving to intercept the Krator attack force before they reach the refugee centers." Chen removed his neural interface, feeling the enhanced awareness fade. He looked at his hands, remembering how easily they had crushed Krator weapons. The doctrine of necessity had transformed him and his team into something beyond ordinary soldiers. The question now was whether they could return to being ordinary humans when the fighting was done. On the Alani refugee ship Solace, Seraphine watched in awe as human medical teams treated victims of the Krator bioweapons. The human doctors had developed a treatment within days of the attack, something the Alani's own advanced medical technology had failed to accomplish. "How is this possible?" she asked Dr. Lakshmi Patel, the lead human physician. Dr. Patel's hands moved expertly as she administered treatment to a young Alani child. "Earth has a long history of biological warfare, Ambassador. Most of it against ourselves. We've had centuries to develop countermeasures." Seraphine felt a mixture of gratitude and horror. "Your people developed these treatments because you used such weapons on each other?" "Yes," Patel admitted. "Humanity's greatest strengths are often born from our greatest mistakes. We learned to heal because we first learned to harm." She looked up from her patient, her eyes tired but determined. "But that's why we understand the Krator better than you do. We recognize the darkness because we've faced it within ourselves." Later, Seraphine stood with Admiral Vasquez, watching a holographic display of the latest battle reports. Human forces had successfully prevented the planned Krator attack on the refugee centers. The cost had been high. 3 human ships destroyed, hundreds of lives lost, but the refugees had been saved. "You're Lieutenant Chen," Seraphine said hesitantly. "I saw recordings of his team's attack. They moved differently. Not like normal humans." Vasquez was silent for a moment. "The doctrine of necessity authorizes measures we would never normally consider. Chen and his team volunteered for experimental augmentations. You change your own bodies for war? When necessary." Vasquez's expression was solemn. "Every enhanced soldier knows the risks, physical and psychological, but they also know what's at stake." Seraphine looked back at the holographic display. Human diplomats were shown meeting with representatives from other species, forming coalitions and securing supply routes. Meanwhile, Krator communications revealed growing fear among their leadership. "The Krator Emperor has sent a message," Vasquez said. "He demands Earth's immediate withdrawal, threatening consequences if we continue to interfere." "What will you do?" Seraphine asked. Vasquez's expression hardened. "We'll do what humanity has always done when faced with bullies and tyrants. We'll stand our ground, and we'll show them exactly why they should have never targeted those who couldn't fight back. Across the galaxy, species that had watched the conflict with detached interest now began to pay close attention. The humans were not fighting as anyone had expected. They were adapting, innovating, pushing boundaries other species considered inviolable. And they were winning. The doctrine of necessity was just the beginning. The Krator Emperor, Supreme Overlord Zax Kral, paced the throne room of his massive flagship. His scaled skin had darkened with rage, and his personal guards kept their distance, knowing his tendency to kill messengers who brought bad news. And, lately, all news had been bad. 3 months, he hissed. 3 months, and these humans have pushed us back from 12 conquered worlds. How is this possible? His chief strategist bowed low. Supreme Overlord, the humans fight differently. They adapt too quickly. They find weaknesses we didn't know existed. Zax Kral stopped pacing. Then we change the game. If we cannot defeat their military directly, we will force them to divide their forces. His yellow eyes narrowed. Prepare the Third Fleet. We will attack the human colony on Proxima 2. A human world? The strategist's scales paled. My Emperor, that would bring their full wrath. Their wrath is already upon us, Zax Kral roared. When they feel their own worlds threatened, they will retreat to protect them. Then we will crush the Elani once and for all. On Earth, the Parliament chamber was filled to capacity. For the first time since the Third World War, all 500 representatives had been called for an emergency session. Admiral Vasquez stood at the podium, her face grim. 26 hours ago, a Krator fleet attacked our colony on Proxima 2, she reported. The colony's defenses held, but we lost 17 ships and over 2,000 lives. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Krator have crossed a line, continued Vasquez. Until now, we've limited our operations to defending Elani worlds and targeting Krator military assets. But this direct attack on human civilians changes everything. The Prime Minister rose. Admiral, what are you proposing? I'm asking Parliament to formally declare unrestricted warfare. No more constraints on our military commanders. No more holding back our full capabilities. The chamber erupted in debate. Finally, the Prime Minister called for a vote. The result was overwhelming. 487 in favor, 13 against. So be it, the Prime Minister announced. From this moment, Earth is in a state of unrestricted warfare with the Krator Imperium. Dr. Eliza Mohindra stood in the control center on the Elani homeworld, surrounded by both human and Elani engineers. Above them, a massive energy field shimmered in the atmosphere. Earth's most advanced planetary defense system. Activate the final harmonics, Mohindra instructed. The Elani engineers complied, their 6-fingered hands moving gracefully across. Control panels. The shield above them pulsed once, then stabilized, becoming nearly invisible. Seraphine, now serving as the official liaison between human and Elani forces, watched in awe. It's beautiful. And nearly impenetrable, Mohindra added. We've installed similar shields on 6 other Elani worlds. The Krator can't target civilian populations anymore. An alert sounded, and a communication officer called out. Dr. Mohindra, we're detecting a massive Krator fleet approaching the Veralis system. Mohindra frowned. Veralis was a contested planet with both Elani and Krator forces fighting for control. How many ships? Over 200, ma'am. They're jamming communications with our forces on the ground. Seraphine's silver eyes widened. We have thousands of refugees on Veralis. If the Krator break through, they won't, Mohindra said firmly. She activated her communication link. This is Mohindra. Connect me to Captain Okonkwo. After a moment, a deep voice responded, Okonkwo here. Captain, the Krator are moving on Veralis with everything they have. Our ground forces need time to evacuate the refugees. Understood, Doctor. The Ghost Fleet is already en route. We'll give them something new to think about. Captain James. Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the EDF Phantom, the flagship of what had become known as the Ghost Fleet. 3 months ago, These 40 ships had been reported destroyed in early battles with the Krator. In reality, they had been secretly refitted with experimental technology so advanced that most human engineers didn't fully understand it. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," his first officer announced. Okonkwo nodded. He was a tall man from the West African Federation, with dark skin and eyes that had seen too much war. "Tell all captains, Operation Lazarus is active. Emergence in 60 seconds. The Ghost Fleet traveled using an experimental drive system that bent space in ways that made the ships virtually undetectable. As they approached the Viralis system, long-range sensors showed the massive Krator armada moving into attack formation. They outnumber us 5-1, the tactical officer noted. Okonkwo smiled slightly. "Then it's an even fight. Emerge directly behind their command ships. Target engines and weapons only on the first pass. Let's show them what the dead can do." The Ghost Fleet appeared without warning in the midst of the crater formation. Ships that were supposedly destroyed months ago now fired advanced weapons that cut through crater shields like they were paper. On the crater flagship, panic spread as systems failed across the fleet. "Impossible," the crater admiral shouted. "Those ships were confirmed destroyed." 3 Krator heavy cruisers moved to intercept, focusing their fire on the Phantom. Okonkwo remained calm as energy blasts struck his ship. "Damage report?" "Shields holding at 93%, Captain. The new absorption systems are working perfectly." Okonkwo nodded. "Return fire. Target their bridge modules." The Phantom unleashed a series of precision strikes. The Krator ships, massive and powerful but slow to maneuver, couldn't evade. Their bridge sections were disabled, leaving the vessels floating helplessly. Within 40 minutes, the battle that should have been a Krator victory had turned into a rout. The Ghost Fleet had disabled or destroyed over half the Krator ships, while suffering minimal damage. The Krator admiral ordered a retreat, but Okonkwo wasn't finished. Pursuit course. They don't get to attack a refugee world and simply walk away. By the time the battle ended, 3/4 of the Krator fleet had been destroyed or captured. The remainder fled into deep space, their communication systems broadcasting their defeat to the entire Krator Imperium. In her quarters on the Alani homeworld, Seraphine studied human combat psychology. The Alani had always believed warfare was a necessary evil, to be avoided whenever possible. Humans, she was discovering, saw it differently. Her research showed that throughout human history, their greatest technological advances often came during times of conflict. Their military innovations eventually found peaceful applications, improving life for all. It was a paradox she struggled to understand. A communication alert interrupted her thoughts. It was Dr. Mohindra. "Ambassador, we've received word from Captain Okonkwo. The Viralis system is secure. All refugees have been evacuated safely." Seraphine felt relief wash over her. "And the Krator fleet?" "Scattered. This was their largest force yet, and they failed completely." After ending the call, Seraphine returned to her research. She had observed how humans transformed when protecting others. They didn't merely fight wars. They became living weapons, channeling all their creativity, intelligence, and determination into victory. The Krator had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed humans would fight like other species, with restraint, following predictable patterns. Instead, they had encountered something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war against itself, now united in defense of another. Across the stars, other predatory species watched the conflict with growing unease. Many quietly began withdrawing from contested territories. The message was clear. Challenging humanity meant facing an opponent unlike any other in the galaxy. The grand war room of the Krator Imperial Palace buzzed with nervous activity. Military leaders from across the Empire had been summoned to the throne world. The mood was grim. For the first time in 8 centuries, the Krator Imperium was on. The defensive Emperor Zaxkral entered, his royal armor dented from a recent human attack on his personal battlecruiser. The room fell silent as he took his seat. "Show me," he commanded. A holographic map appeared, displaying the galaxy with Krator territory highlighted in red. As they watched, Large sections of the map changed from red to blue, representing areas now under human control. In 4 months, reported Fleet Admiral Draz, we have lost 23 star systems. The humans have penetrated our outer defenses and are advancing toward the core worlds. How? Zaxkral demanded. How are they defeating us so completely? Admiral Draz hesitated before answering. Supreme Emperor, the humans, they aren't just sending their military. Their entire civilization has mobilized for this war. Their scientists develop new weapons faster than we can counter them. Their diplomats have turned 7 neutral species against us. Their economy produces war materials at an incredible rate. He paused, then added reluctantly, our propaganda portrays them as bloodthirsty demons, but the conquered populations don't fear them. The humans provide food and medical care even as they advance. They're winning not just with weapons but with mercy. Zaxkral's eyes narrowed dangerously. Then we must show them that mercy is weakness. Prepare the home fleet. If we cannot save our empire, we will make them pay such a price in blood that they will never forget the name Krator. Commander Sofia Nazari stood on the bridge of the EDF Retribution, looking at the tactical display. Around her ship, the largest human fleet ever assembled, over 500 vessels, prepared for the final push into Krator space. Nazari had grown up during Earth's resource wars, when her family had fled their homeland as refugees. She understood, better than most, what it meant to be displaced, to lose everything. Perhaps that's why she had been chosen to lead Operation Thunderclap, the final assault on the Krator throne world. All battle groups report ready, Commander, her executive officer announced. Nazari nodded. Begin the jump sequence. Remind all captains. Our primary targets are military installations. Civilian areas are to be avoided whenever possible, The massive fleet prepared to enter faster than light travel. Nazari reviewed the intelligence reports one last time. Human spies and reconnaissance drones had compiled detailed information on Krator defenses. The Krator were expecting an attack, but not the kind Nazari had planned. Fleet is ready, Commander. Nazari took a deep breath. Execute jump. On the Elani diplomatic vessel Hope's Messenger, Seraphine worked alongside human negotiators, preparing for what would come after the war. In the 4 months since Earth had entered the conflict, she had learned much about humans. Their capacity for violence, yes, but also their remarkable ability to rebuild and heal. Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from Commander Nazari. A communications officer called. Operation Thunderclap has begun. Seraphine watched the tactical display as hundreds of human ships appeared near the Krator throne world. But instead of attacking directly, they deployed thousands of small objects around the planet. What are those? She asked. The human diplomat beside her, Maria Chen, smiled slightly. Precision disruptors. They're designed to target specific Krator technologies, particularly their weapon systems and military communications. Commander Nazari doesn't want to destroy the planet. She wants to force a surrender with minimal casualties. Seraphine's silver eyes widened. Even now, at the moment of victory, your people still show restraint? This isn't about revenge, Chen replied. It's about justice, and what comes after. We've learned the hard way that how you win a war determines whether you can win the peace that follows. On the Krator throne world, panic spread as defense systems failed across the planet. The orbital platforms that should have decimated the human fleet were silent, their targeting systems offline. Military communications were jammed, leaving defense forces unable to coordinate. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zaxkral roared in frustration as another system failed. What is happening? Why can't we fight back? His chief technician trembled. Supreme Emperor, the humans are using some kind of targeted disruption field. It affects only military systems. Our weapons, shields, and communication arrays are all failing, but civilian infrastructure remains untouched. Impossible. No weapon can be so selective. But it was happening. Across the planet, Krator military bases went dark, while civilian areas remained powered and functional. The message was clear. The humans could have destroyed everything, but they chose not to. A communication officer rushed in. "Emperor, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're demanding to speak with you directly." On the main screen, Commander Nazari's face appeared. Unlike most aliens the Krator had encountered, humans had no scales, feathers, or exoskeletons, just soft skin that seemed vulnerable. Yet this seemingly fragile species had brought the mighty Krator Empire to its knees. "Emperor Zaxkral, Nazari," said, her voice calm but firm. "Your military capabilities have been neutralized. Your fleet is surrounded. Your empire is in retreat across 23 star systems. I offer you one chance to surrender." Zaxkral snarled. "The Krator Imperium does not surrender to soft-skinned prey." Nazari's expression didn't change. "Then you leave us no choice. We have identified your personal bunker system beneath the Imperial Palace. In exactly 1 hour, a special operations team will enter that bunker and remove you from power." She paused. "The choice is yours, Emperor. Surrender with honor or be remembered as the leader who destroyed the Krator Imperium through pride." The screen went dark. The Emperor looked at his advisors, seeing fear in their eyes for the first time. "They're bluffing. No one can penetrate the Imperial bunker." 1 hour later, a squad of enhanced human soldiers led by Lieutenant Darius Chen breached the supposedly impenetrable defenses of the Imperial bunker. They moved with incredible speed and precision, neutralizing the royal guards without killing them. Chen stood before the Emperor, his enhanced combat suit making him seem more machine than human. "Emperor Zaxkral, by authority of Earth Command and the Allied Species Council, you are relieved of power." As the Emperor was taken into custody, news spread across the Krator worlds. The impossible had happened. Humanity, a species that most Krator had never heard of 5 months earlier, had defeated the greatest empire in the galaxy. Across the stars, other species watched in amazement. Many had expected the humans to exact terrible vengeance once victory was achieved. Instead, they saw something unprecedented: targeted strikes against military targets, protection of civilian infrastructure, and now, most surprisingly, a call for justice rather than revenge. "They really are different," a Tellurian observer noted to his colleague as they watched human ships securing the Krator throne world. "Any other species would have bombarded the planet from orbit." His colleague nodded. "The humans have a saying I've been studying. The true measure of a civilization is not how it treats its equals, but how it treats its defeated enemies." Below them, human ships began deploying medical teams and food supplies to Krator civilian centers. The war was ending not with genocide, but with helping hands extended even to those who had been enemies. Predatory species across the galaxy took note and quietly reconsidered their expansion plans. The message was clear. In a galaxy where humanity stood watch, conquest through brutality would no longer be tolerated. 3 months after the fall of the Krator Empire, the galaxy held its breath. History had taught most species what to expect when a mighty power was defeated: occupation, resource extraction, and subjugation. The victors always took advantage of their conquest. But humanity was rewriting that history. On the Alani homeworld, which had been nearly destroyed by Krator bombardment, human engineering teams worked alongside local builders. Massive construction vehicles lifted debris while specialized atmospheric processors cleared the pollution left by Krator weapons. In what had once been the central plaza of the capital city, now stood a temporary command center. Inside, General Tao, Helena Vasquez, recently promoted for her leadership during the war, reviewed progress reports with Seraphine, who now served as the leader of the Ilani Provisional Government. "The northern continent's water purification systems are now operational," Vasquez reported. "Medical teams have treated 90% of those injured in the final Krator attacks." Seraphine looked at the holographic display showing the rebuilding efforts across 12 devastated Ilani worlds. "My people still cannot believe what your kind is doing, General. When the war ended, many expected you would simply leave. Others feared you would stay as conquerors." Vasquez smiled slightly. "We have a name for what we're doing: the Marshall Protocol. After an ancient Earth conflict, one nation helped rebuild those it had defeated, turning enemies into allies. We learned that how you make peace is as important as how you wage war. Outside the command center, a group of human children played with young Aelani, teaching them games from Earth while learning Aelani songs in return. The sight would have been unimaginable 6 months earlier. "And the Crador?" Seraphine asked, hesitantly. "War crimes tribunals have begun," Vasquez replied. "Emperor Zaxakral and his top commanders will face justice for targeting civilians. But we're also providing aid to Crador civilian worlds affected by the fighting. Their people aren't guilty of their leaders' crimes." In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from over 100 species gathered for an historic session. At the center of the chamber stood two figures who had become symbols of the recent conflict: Admiral Vasquez and Ambassador Seraphine. The ancient Vordic counselor, who had witnessed centuries of galactic politics, spoke first. "We have called this special session to address the dramatic changes in our community following the human Crador War. Never before has a newly emerged species so quickly and decisively altered the balance of power." Murmurs spread through the chamber as Vasquez stepped forward to address the council. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "Earth did not enter this conflict seeking power or territory. We fought because a peaceful species faced extinction and asked for our help. Now that the fighting has ended, we are here to propose a new approach to galactic security." She activated a holographic display showing a complex network connecting different star systems. "This is the Mutual Defense Accord. Any signatory species that faces unprovoked aggression can call upon all other members for assistance." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives voiced concern about human intentions, while others pointed out the benefits of such an alliance. Seraphine stepped forward. "6 months ago, my people were on the edge of extinction. We had no weapons, no defenses, and no hope. The humans could have ignored our plea. It would have been easier and safer for them. Instead, they brought their full strength to our defense." Her silver eyes swept the chamber. "They showed us that peace need not come at the price of helplessness." After hours of debate, the vote was taken. 87 species joined the Mutual Defense Accord, with humans and Aelani as founding members. For the first time in galactic history, a framework existed to protect peaceful species from aggressive ones. As the council session ended, the Tellurian representative approached Vasquez privately. "Admiral, many of us wondered why Earth committed so completely to this war. You deployed your entire military, risked everything for aliens you barely knew. Why?" Vasquez looked at the alien diplomat thoughtfully. "Throughout our history, humans stood by while terrible things happened to others. We learned the hard way that silence in the face of cruelty makes us complicit in that cruelty. We fought for the Aelani because no one should face annihilation alone." 1 year after the first Crador attack on the Aelani, a memorial was unveiled in the rebuilt capital city. Unlike traditional war monuments, it depicted children, human and Aelani, playing beneath a protective shield. The inscription, written in both languages, read, "From the darkest hour came the brightest dawn." At the ceremony, Seraphine stood alongside the new Earth ambassador. "When I first came to your world," she said quietly, "I expected sympathy, perhaps token assistance. I never imagined your people would commit so totally to our defense." "That's humanity for you," the ambassador replied. "We do nothing halfway." After the ceremony, Seraphine visited a school where human teachers were working with Aelani children. The youngsters were learning not just Earth languages and sciences, but also self-defense, a concept once foreign to Aelani culture. "We still prefer peace," an Aelani teacher explained, "but the humans have taught us that being peaceful doesn't mean being defenseless." In a maximum security detention center orbiting a neutral world, former Emperor Zaxakral sat in his cell. After 6 months of testimony, the War Crimes Tribunal had sentenced him to life imprisonment rather than execution. Another surprise from the humans. A guard approached his cell, a human named Miguel Sanchez, who brought the daily meal. "I still don't understand," Zaxakral said suddenly. "Your species had the power to destroy our worlds, to take our resources, to enslave our people. Why didn't you?" Sanchez looked at the fallen emperor thoughtfully. Because that's not who we are. Not anymore anyway. Then why fight with such an intensity? Your species brought overwhelming force against us. We don't fight for conquest, Sanchez replied. We fought because you threatened those who asked for our protection. Remember that, because we'll do it again if necessary. As the guard left, Zaxkrell contemplated these words. In the Crador worldview, power was meant to be used for domination. The humans seemed to follow a different principle, one he was only beginning to understand. 5 years after the war, the galaxy had transformed. The Mutual Defense Accord had grown to include over 100 species. Former enemies now engaged in trade and cultural exchange. The Alani, while maintaining their peaceful values, had developed defensive capabilities with human assistance. In universities across dozens of worlds, a new field of study had emerged: human conflict resolution paradox. Scholars tried to understand how the most warlike species in recent galactic history had also become its greatest advocate for peace. An Alani professor summarized it best in a famous lecture. The humans brought total war to our enemies, yes, but they also brought total commitment to the peace that followed. Their capacity for both is what makes them unique among us. Throughout the galaxy, the phrase "calling on humanity" entered the lexicon of countless species. To some, it meant salvation in their darkest hour. To others, those who might consider conquest through cruelty, it served as a warning. Either way, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. In the vastness of space, there existed a species that would fight, with unmatched ferocity, not for conquest, but for those who could not fight for themselves.